on your journey, the path you must take. Though hate may surround you, it's not your fate to forsake. Co-creating your destiny in the dance of time. The guiding light within you ignites the sublime. It is the light the guiding light. From the
From your
heart and
eyes,
soul, don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. In the depths of your being, the truth resides. Embrace your power, let your spirit rise. With every step forward, you transcend the expanded conscious community we commend. Through trials and triumphs, your soul evolves in the symphony of life, where every note resolves. Listen to the whispers of your inner voice. In unity and love, let your heart rejoice. It is the light, the guiding light. From the heart and soul, don't lose control. Let it be the light, shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. It is the light.
I forgot I was on here. What's up, y'all? I'm just here grooving. I forgot I wanted to look up something. We're about to have some fun, right? You got to see me behind the scenes. Got some little cake here to celebrate. We're going to have some fun. So, like, share, and let's get ready.
Life coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential day by day. Embracing transformation with grace. Life coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential day by day.
Hey, what's up? What's up? I hope y'all doing really good this evening. It's going to be fun. You got to see me do a little bit of dancing, I guess, beforehand, and just it's such a joy and it's fun to have this moment, and you get to spend time with honestly your friends and your people, and we get to like express and talk and communicate, and we every once in a while, of course, we know we have friends and foe come into this room in this space, right? And yeah, man, I'm so excited this evening to just have some reflection. As most of us know, uh, Bishop Carlton Pearson, who established and done expanded consciousness on his show for 15 years. It started as streaming consciousness and then went to come Monday, I believe, probably in 2018, little bit of 19, and by 2020, things had kind of died out, and he started bringing it back. And by 2021, he and I got together, and we just began making sure he was able to produce the Expanded Conscious show. And of course, as we talk about everything from deconstructing and religious trauma and things of the church in Carlton's behalf, of course, sometime we would dovetail into some metaphysical work and things of that nature. And so yesterday, March 19th, was his birthday. And of course, he's an ancestor now. And the way I see it and the way we function, it's kind of like when you think about Dr. Martin Luther King or anyone else that has paved the way and done something that helps us grow, helps us reflect, helps us understand like who we may be in that in our lifetime, right? When we think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we think about like civil rights and civil rights issues, which we might dovetail and get into when you see um, the special person behind the scenes. But Dr. or Bishop Carlton Pearson, you could say Bishop Dr. Carlton Pearson, he never did go by his honorary doctorates. But our biggest reflection on Bishop that we all have is that we went to church and we did church well. And church was very different before Bishop compared to what we see now. Bishop was at the break. He would be considered one of the fathers, especially of the Black megachurch. There was only one other. But when you really think about the really bigness of who Bishop has become during his era and time, and my thing is like the reflection that I want to do on Bishop Carlton Pearson is not of his life, but of his life's work. And I spent a lot of time. I would go as far as to say I probably spent some of the most time with Bishop personally in his last 2 years, because I'm here in Tulsa and it's nothing for me to call him and talk to him or go to lunch with him. Like it's just an everyday occurrence. And we were doing the show. So it was literally lots and lots and lots and lots and hours for the last 2 years of his life. Like, we are so in depth in our conversation and talk that I hear that he's turning on the shower and sticking his phone up there, and he's got so much going on, and he's he's showering, he's like, oh, and it's echoing, and he's like, I don't know, yeah, I called somebody else, and they did this, and so we're having this bona fide hardcore relationship. I mean, conversation. I'm just thinking, Bishop's in the shower. And he's just not stopping. And we talking about the show, or we talking about what we're going to do, or talking about the future, or, And so my reflection that I'll probably maintain for him is that he found who he was. He found himself through Oral Roberts and the things that he experienced at a very young age to me, moving through that, going through the Christendom in church and doing the best he can to be all he can within that domain, that domain, right? But he started very early with his expanded consciousness with him started with higher dimensions. Like nobody calls a church higher dimensions. Nobody does that. And he always wanted to get closer. He just wanted to be closer to God. God is what he's known it. And you may not see it a whole lot, which I understand, because there was times that I did not necessarily comprehend and understand. And now that I'm in this position now, and with the United States government and the United States understanding and philosophies and principles, to this day, we know that Bishop Carlton Pearson would be spending a lot of time reflecting, um, um, speaking, and connecting to the evolution of who we are, and especially when it comes to justice, when it comes to the Christian perspective, when it comes to justice. It's topics and conversations when it comes to spirituality that we don't really necessarily like to have. They're not necessarily comfortable, especially when you think about the Judeo-Christian America and what it represented when he was actually behind the pulpit, in the pulpit, and what he believed as a Republican. And in his latter years of what he really was, he was just really disappointed. He was really hurt when it comes to how we live. And he was 100% an inclusive person and believed in including everyone in the fold, and the fold as far as when what God is concerned. That was his very first experience of expansion of consciousness came whenever he began to deconstruct his life, literal. The whole thing came down. It came down so hard, so fast, and so open that literally Netflix decides to spend millions, 20 million or something, the dollar budget, right, for a film. NPR, if you ever get a chance, you have to listen to the NPR radio piece. And if you haven't listened to the NPR radio piece in a while, if it's been 10 years since you listened to Bishop Carlton Pearson's radio piece, I suggest that you reflect and you go back and you listen to Bishop Carlton Pearson. I am Malachi Gross. Most of you, let's say a big chunk of you, know me on this live channel from Expanded Consciousness and working with Bishop Carlton Pearson. I've been doing this now a solid year. It was February 20th. The DE had his first show as the Carlton Pearson, Bishop Carlton Pearson inclusion. It was, February 20th. So he's rolling with that, running with that. And they got the foundation. You can donate to the foundation via all of the links, I believe, that they have. And they working with the kids, doing their thing. One thing that I enjoy and I love is the expanded consciousness and us being able to use the material. And, I'll be straight up. Like, I am not a church person. I did church all my life, and some people love it. Some people love the organization of going in there. I love the music. And I love the experience and expression so much that I created a affirmation music genre. It's not really a genre that you would call a genre currently, but affirmation music. I bought the domain. I'm writing the kind of music that goes within it, so it can have a gospel feel, if you will, or not. But yet, though, it's affirming, right? So it's music that's designed to really make you reflect on who you are, why you are, and the things that I want to really go deep on today as a personal reflection to Bishop Carlton Pearson. It's not his life, because I will be frank with you, is I did not have a lot of time with Bishop Carlton Pearson, or let's say I had zero time, zilch, nada, nothing, no time at all with Bishop Carlton Pearson as Bishop Carlton Pearson, the evangelical. I don't know that man. I know of that man. I only know Bishop Carlton Pearson as the heretic, period. I met him through a man named Wayman Tisdale, who was a famous basketball player and jazz musician here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Two of Oklahoma's most famous Black people for sure. And I worked with both of them, both of them. And Wayman introduced me to Carlton at a hotel whenever I was doing the Wayman part. I think I was leaning towards the Wayman Tisdale story, which is on Amazon Prime currently. And you can go watch the Wayman Tisdale story on Prime, which is an interesting story if you ever want to reflect. I do also have, yes, it's Carlton Pearson's last full interview. We performed an interview, I think, January of 2023. Yeah. 3 hours of him talking. I can do something with it. I plan to do something with it. Something for us, for the community, for people, as we reflect on Bishop Carlton Pearson's life and today, right? And the biggest thing I want to do is not just reflect on his life, but really the mission, the goal. He left and completely dropped it all, just based on his heart. And his heart was deeply tied, of course, to his kids, but he's got a baby girl, and that's Majesty, and he's sitting there holding Majesty. He goes through a whole bunch, read a lot of books, Neil Donald Walsh. He was already kind of prepped mentally for this transition, but the final straw, as he begins to have an internal dialogue, right? We all have internal dialogues, and a lot of people in the church say, I'm having an internal they don't say that. They just say, God talked to me, or God said, but it's internal dialogue, because that same God could be a devil or you. And so he had an internal dialogue holding Majesty, and he's always had nice homes that are gated. People try to get in, type of a deal, and just protected himself. Most people don't know also that Bishop Carlton Pearson was shot. Anybody know that? He was shot. Like, people trying to get in, like, pow, pow, like, and he's got bullets, right? So that's a lot to reflect on. But anyways, he had Majesty, and he's holding Majesty. And the commercials for Africa come on. And he's in the midst of everything. And all of a sudden it's like the midst of everything, as far as he's already, I think, dealing with various different things with where he is. And there could be, if you think about the Veron Ash prophecy, if you will. Literally, Veron Ash comes out and says everything. I've never witnessed a prophecy in a church that was psychic. I've never witnessed that. And he actually said it almost verbatim, exactly what's going to happen to Bishop Carlton Pearson in terms of, like, people shunning him and shutting the church, and how he's shifting. And he said all that. Veron Ash, he had said that about Bishop. And I'm trying to think. Veron Ash transitioned, possibly. The monitor went out, but he transitioned quite a few years ago. But Bishop, he said that in 2000, I believe, that he was talking about Bishop and what was going to happen. And it was a very prophetic, it was very interesting moment for Bishop. But he's sitting there with majesty, and he's holding majesty. And he sees these kids on Africa. And this internal dialogue was like, hey, why don't you go save those kids? You know, God, why are you doing this to these kids? Why are these kids suffering? Right? And so this internal dialogue going back and forth about these kids suffering is like, well, you got your daughter there, you got the Mercedes outside, and you're living it up in America, the American dream. And what America wants you to believe is that those people just don't have the opportunity because of those people's parents, because of the black people that has caused it. Nothing to do with colonization, nothing to do with anything to do with what the whole church system is also behind. But he has that internal dialogue. And basically it's like, well, go save them if you think they need saved. If you think I need to save them, you think they need saved, go save them. And Bishop was like, don't put that on me, God. Don't put that on me. And so he's like, so if you don't want me to put it on you, so what are you doing then? What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? That goes back to what Bishop says. He says, for you to question what you believe. Ask the question, what do you believe? Why do you believe that? And how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality of your life? This dialogue and this conversation is not a popular one. People have heard it, but at the same time, when it comes to reflecting on who you are and reflecting on why you are and reflecting on if you are in the contemplation space of believing in hell or contemplation space of believing the inherent word of God, that everything in there is true, unless unless someone says that that is just a parable, and we don't necessarily take it that way. But Bishop Carlton Pearson was a person that took a stand, one of the biggest stands that a person could probably ever take in their career. And that is to be at the top of your game. I mean, can you imagine, like, if I'm not going to name names, but if you are in a city, I'll just call it out. I mean, who cares? You got Stephen Furtick and Michael Todd and TD Jakes, like outside of the people that still have these mega churches. And I guess Jamal Bryant has taken over a mega church, right? And so if you imagine any of those individuals, especially in today's time, like, because in Bishop Carlton Pearson's time, he didn't have a lot of competition because you didn't have social media. So he was on national TV, PTL, like with presidents. And so it's not a big deal today to blow up and you have a church that's known by somebody, right? Christian A. Smith shown one guy, Phillips or whatever, he's in the East Coast, who has a pretty decent sized church. Like with social media, it is not hard to just get a bunch of people to believe in the traditional message of the gospel. That is not hard because we're pre-programmed almost to receive that. And according to the data, it is in your best interest to be Christian. And if you're Black, it is in your best interest to profess Christianity, because 97% of Black people are all professed Christians, even if they are not necessarily active Christians, but they will profess it because it's part of the system. It's part of what you just say. That's just what you do, right? You don't say anything else or be anything else because you'll be alienated. And so can you imagine all those individual people that I just mentioned, like deciding, like Michael Todd deciding to say, you know what? I don't believe X, Y, or Z. It don't even have to be hell, But you got to be willing to actually say, you know what, I'm cutting this off and I don't want to do this. Like, because I don't believe in this particular thing. Like, a lot of people would just be like, well, I can look past it, or I can still do this, this, and this, because they get away with a lot. You don't get it twisted. A lot of those guys, and they still get a lot of flack from individual people. They get a lot of flack. But the thing is the fact that people are more willing to take a stand and vouch and speak up and stay connected to their celebrity pastor. Like, and I think a lot of it has to do with that. Is the fact that you have a celebrity pastor meaning that you have never really had a conversation. Most people with celebrity pastors have never had a conversation or heart to heart or any kind of, you barely probably had a hug from a pastor. You are a celebrity pastor if you can't hug all your members. It's okay, right? But Bishop Carlton Pearson represented something. So on this day, as we reflect on his birthday, it's kind of like reflecting on Martin Luther King. And we know he had a dream, and we know he had an idea of what he wanted or believed in civil rights. And a lot of those things have happened, but now we're in a space where a lot of those things are being not necessarily jeopardized, but almost reversed to a degree, right? It's almost being, and it is under attack. Civil rights is under attack by the way of trans rights, but yet though we know that it's like it's under attack by the way of trans rights. So it's easy to go out and be like, I can get even black people to be against trans people. I can get a lot of people to be against trans. I can get a lot of people to be against gay people. But in the meantime, I'm also going to flush down the toilet, hopefully a bunch of black people too. Anything that's diversity, anything that is anything that represents too much of something not being very white. And it's blatant, it's in your face. And just because I say that, a lot of people will say, you're racist for bringing up white, or you're racist for bringing up color. If that's what your definition of that is, I cannot help you. If you don't know the definition of racism, or if you don't know the definition of what it is to be right or to be wrong on this side of history, I mean, there's not much I can do to help you. And if you want to jump on Democrats versus Republicans, there are plenty racist Democrats, right? Racism isn't necessarily like it's 1920 or like it's 1875 and you're just out there just, you know, hanging up niggas and from their feet and then catching them on fire, slicing their babies out. You guys are worse than Gaza. Like, the history has been worse than, I mean, not to try to compare, right? I'm just telling you what has been hidden. It's in your face and it's not hidden, but it's hidden from your consciousness. Like, you can go online and get proven history and see some of the atrocities. Picnics comes from pick a nigga. Like, that's what it comes from. It comes from roasting, like putting a black person on a picket, like, and roasting them. Yeah, it's vivid, it's morbid, it's bad, it's ugly. So, dragging people behind the rocks and this, and the thing is yeah, you could say black people did it. Black people as slaves. White people are slaves. Okay, yes, check. I'm not here to disprove any other ideal about what happened during times of slavery. But I do know one thing. We don't like having the conversation. We don't like to have dialogue. We might have monologue, right? A brief overview. But we don't want to have dialogue, because the dialogue is what's going to help us when it comes to understanding the social conditioning and the complex post-traumatic stress or the post-traumatic slave syndrome. when we start looking at health and we start looking at wellness and we start looking at who we are and we start looking at how we're going to move forward, especially when you have a system that is doing things that seemingly is not for the benefit of all people. And if anything that I want to do on reflecting on Bishop Carlton Pearson, right, I feel his presence, and his presence is, you know what, you spent enough time with me. You spent enough time with me to know if I was to have something to say today, don't let me down, Mally is what he would always say. Don't let me down. He'd be like, hey, Mally. And the thing is the biggest thing that he would have to say is, you can reflect on my birthday and you can reflect on my life, but please don't reflect on my life as a glamour story so that you can just, you can sit around and be like, yeah, I was with Carlton Pearson. I was with Carlton Pearson, and we did this and we did that. Yeah, he was my man. Woo, 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 woo. Carlton Pearson, yeah, yeah. Oh man, I get some celebrity-ish kind of like attention from it. I know that, but let's cut it. I'm going to be me. I'm not saying this as a reflection to anybody either, right? Anybody can get it when it comes to the realness, right? I'm real, and not saying that you or anyone else out there is not real, right? Because you are being real to who you are, even though someone else might reflect and be like, are you being real? That's not what I'm here for, but I'm reflecting. It's a personal reflection of Bishop Carlton Pearson. It is my experience. Malachi wasn't, and there's no offense against anybody that was out there with him and prior to him coming out, because I think all of it is beautiful. I think the funeral that happened with his previous, with Michael and all them, it was fire. It was amazing in my book. In the fact that most people don't have the backstory. You don't have the backstories to know a lot of these things. I'm going to tell you a big backstory. Nobody knows this backstory. This is a deep backstory. A really deep backstory. I didn't know this was going up, but all right, if that's what you want. I mean, but it's a beautiful backstory. And so one of the things, if you look up Carlton Pearson, this is a really cool thing. If you look up Carlton Pearson funeral, because I know there was a lot of controversy during the funeral, right? Matter of fact, whenever I instantly go on to, I had another video ready, and there's just been a shift, right? And so if you instantly go to YouTube, I wish my other monitor was working. I'll have to get that fixed because I usually have two monitors. But if you go to YouTube, you see on there, right there is the Larry Reid story, right? So it's a big, everybody knows about it. It's a big deal that Carlton did not get a lot of what he requested for his funeral. Not going into major detail, but I do know that Carlton Pearson done one thing that I know for a fact, for a figgity fact, that nobody can actually say anything at all to this one thing that was done at Carlton Pearson's funeral. Okay. Nothing against, that video, brother Larry Reid has 100 and something thousand people and him and Bishop talking. But if you look at the celebration video, You look specifically at the celebration video. There's one thing I'm going to show you in this video. I want to point out to you, right? About what I know about Carlton Pearson and his
the preacher, a singer, an evangelist,
and his funeral, right? That this is not controversial on what he wanted or not. But this is very important to what I feel and what I know. Once again, this is a personal reflection. This has nothing to do with anybody, right? This has to do with Malachi and his reflection, because there's one thing right here. Boom. Y'all see this? Y'all see that? Look at that. You see that? What? Let me show you something. On the record, let me show you something. Let me show you something. There was someone else that I was with and that I took a part of, right? Let me show y'all something. This was 2023. Let's go viral with this. This is 2023, November. What do you see? You see a gold casket with a black organization, right? We're gonna reflect. We're gonna go back. Like, okay, I mean, I didn't know. You see that? I'm gonna stop sharing that, and I'm gonna share another screen. This is Keith Biglow. Keith Biglow is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Keith Biglow is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They got 4 locations, but I know I go by their funeral home almost every single day, because it's on the north side. 20% of Black people in our city lives on the north side. That is a Black funeral home. A Black funeral home that they're the ones that did this funeral. Okay? And this is important to just to understand the beauty and the connection. And watch this. This is what happened in 2009. This is 2009, folks. This is Wayman Tisdale's funeral. I was involved with all of this to a degree. To a degree. Wayman, a bit more than Carlton in terms of behind the scenes. A bit more than Carlton, right? Wayman was carried through horse and carriage through the north side of Tulsa in a horse carriage in a clear, and his casket was in there, prayed it through the north side. That's the casket. And Carlton Pearson seen and knew it was the most amazing funeral ever, is to see. It was a massive 5,000 people. This was the most amazing thing I ever experienced. And that is, they marched Wayman Tisdale's casket into a coliseum and they placed it. And he had a basketball. That's Fred Hammond, right? He had a lot of people that came to that funeral, and a lot of people like this most likely would have done the same. That looks like an Azusa style funeral. That's Wayman Tisdale's funeral. They did have church there. It was almost an out of body experience for me. So I'm just saying, all I'm saying is Carlton Pearson, I believe, reflected on Wayman Tisdale's funeral, because I believe he'd done it way before, and said, I want to have a funeral like Wayman Tisdale's. And you know what? If you weren't there, you weren't there. If you weren't there, you weren't there. But I'm here to reflect on the fact that, excuse me, I'm on to reflect on the fact that these guys walked in like this. Epic. I don't care where Churchill was at. I don't care what anybody got to say. This was Carlton Pearson, 100%. This is what he wanted. Because otherwise, why would somebody else reflect? Here's the thing. Did I mess up my camera? I think I messed my camera up. Come on, camera. Come on. If you didn't see this, you might be able to hear me, but look at that. Hold on. I could get this to switch. I have to do a little bit of exercising here. All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened to this box that locked up, but we got it, right? I have to make sure I'm looking at the right camera now. I have so many cameras over here, right? But anyways, get a chance to watch Carlton Pearson whenever he comes in and he leaves, right? When he comes in to the church and whenever he leaves the church, it's through these people carrying a gold casket to his music and they march. And that was one thing that happened in 2009. And that was one thing he had already said that was dope way before, because of course I had a relationship with him between 2009 and 2023. So, as we reflect today on Bishop Carlton Pearson, as we reflect on him, my personal experience, what he was about, and the reason why I continue and I carry on with expanded consciousness. Now, I don't like looking down at the camera. It still looks okay, but you know, it's not as pretty as it used to be. Come on, y'all. I come from the TV space. That's what I did for Bishop. So we keep it moving. We keep it moving. But the biggest thing that I want to reflect back on is leading up to who he was by the time he checked out of here, because he checked out of here because he checked out of here. He was ready the minute that he found out he was dealing with that, because guess what? I was with him for the last 2 years. Is it a shock to me that they came back and was like, hey, we found something? No. I used to get onto him all the time between like, what are you doing? Like, you don't have to go to the merchant or whatever going. He dealt with that infection in bladder, and they didn't deal with cancer, but just in bladder and infections and all that stuff for a long time. And of course, a lot of that has to do with your body. A lot of it has to do with your stress levels. He was stressed a lot because he had to pay bills. He had to do everything. And people still was like, hey, we love you, Bishop. We support you, Bishop. But you know what? They support Bishop as much as the Bishop can support them with his brand. Just as much as they support him with his brand, right? I was not necessarily, people may see it, but I wasn't on Bishop's job. Like I did other things. Like I loved him. He was amazing, but there's a big difference going from working for a NBA person that's in the music scene or working with movies and people that are not in the church scene, and then going and working with somebody that's in the church scene. That's a completely different, like, I'm cool. Like that is just not that is just different. Like that is an experience because you don't deal in the NBA and within the secular world, you don't deal with people in the church fighting you about something. Like everybody love you or they don't love you. Period. And so you don't deal with your friends and you don't deal with your friends and people that's supposed to be your friends that they could turn on you if you decide to say the wrong thing. But that's what happens in this situation. Like, I don't like church folk can be some of the most evil folks. And it's got to do with belief system. It has to do with belief system. Expanded consciousness to him that I really begin to dig, because I did have an interest in Bishop Pearson. As we worked together, as we were around each other, and as he helped me with his own dialogue, right? And as he talked about certain things and my experience in the church and his experience in the church, we were both Kojic. We both went to Oral Roberts. We both had people that we knew in the church. I worked with some other people, Miles Monroe. And Wayman Tisdale was really a big connector for Carlton and I, which was a whole different experience of a relationship, because Wayman was pretty well known. He was like famous to a lot of people and not to a certain group of people. Everything from Brian Morgan Anderson with SWV to Angie Stone, Lettucey, Commission used to sleep at his house. Mary. Wayman Tisdale was in 1985. He's in the NBA. So he's got a lot of money in the NBA from 1985 to 1985 to 1991. I think he came out with Circumstances, right? His record. But between that time, Wayman wanted to do music. He still was a church musician. He still was supporting, he still loved his dad. So he was taking, I think he spent probably up to $1 million trying to do a record label back then and helping a lot of gospel artists. And then he would contribute to Carlton a lot of different ways. If I wanted to, I can show you and go on to an Azusa video where you can see he's the only one in there that's 6'9", You know what I mean? As a basketball player, right? In the middle of Azusa. So they had a really crazy close bond. Wayman Tisdale and Carlton Pearson had a super close bond, which in return, Wayman Tisdale allowed Michael Todd to be on his records and actually took him on the road when Michael Todd was probably 16 with one GLP. Huge. You know, Michael Todd's mom and dad were already pastors to they were pastors to Carlton. Michael Todd's mom and dad were pastors to Carlton. And so therefore, Michael had already been in this same essence, right? Michael Todd was very, very talented. And he was extremely well at the drums. He could be on the tour right now to this day, touring with anybody, any act. He was touring with Wayman. So Michael Todd and I were together with Wayman on the road and doing different things. And then whenever he then reflected on Bishop, they were really close. Michael Todd and Carlton were very, very, very close because, you know, Michael has a lot of the essences and has a lot of the legacies and history of Carlton. Like literally it's like higher D 2.0. It's higher D 2.0. Michael knows that, and he will tell anybody that. That's the reason why he had the funeral there. It was like, you know what? People get mad. They get mad. But that right there, that's my family. You can say whatever you want, but that's my family, Carlton Pearson. And so throughout all that controversy, the biggest thing that I'm reflecting on, though, is my personal experience that I had with him and his overall objective of the last thing that he told me and said. And it was like, if I was to carry on, I would look at some of the people that I had on here recently, like Christian, and I would look in DE was a person that was actually on the show in those latter days, but being able to spread and being able to connect to those people. And the thing is we kind of are, right? We kind of are. You have a plethora, you have a choice of where you can connect and not. My thing is like connect to all of them. Connect to everything that you feel that is where you being led to understand and to learn and to grow, right? In the expanded conscious space, and me as a mystic and really go deeper into what we call is metaphysics, mysticism. It's more it's not a thing of inclusion when we are okay with talking about aliens, or we're open to talking about paranormal. We're open to talk about whether something is not real, whether if Jesus was not Jesus, right? Okay. And we don't necessarily have to hang our hat on all the theological context and theological research. And that's great. Go do it. Have fun. You know what I mean? Cheers. Like, I'm good. You can go deep as you want to, and that's beautiful. But one thing for sure, know that you're expanding. Know that you are really expanding within who you are, right? Know that what you have to do is you're going to have to deconstruct your reality more than you have to deconstruct anything. So everything that you believed, right, you need to ask and put it into question, right? Put it into question in what you believed. And why do you believe that? And how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality of your life? How do those beliefs add to or subtract to other people in their life? Your belief systems, according to the way this planet is, the way this country is working, a lot of people's belief systems are not adding to or they're not necessarily adding to everybody's. It's actually subtracting from everyone else's life. And you're okay with it on the basis of a Bible. on the basis of the word. And people are actually, Christian nationalists specifically are using your belief system on what you believe and saying we have to change the way everybody in the world operates. We have to change the way laws. We want to make it basically law that you actually worship Christian God, that you actually go to a church. We pretty much want to make it a law. And if you don't, we're going to make it very inconvenient for you. We're going to make it very inconvenient for you. So with everything that Bishop Carlton Pearson would talk about in his latter days, talking about the evangelicals and what they're doing and why they're doing it for Donald Trump, it's gone into a whole nother stratosphere of understanding, a whole nother stratosphere of reflecting, and a stratosphere of where we're going, a whole nother stratosphere of understanding, right? We're in a stage right now for all those who are open and expanding that we need to be getting deeper into more of a metaphysical state. You need to be getting deeper, more into a psychic state. You better be getting more into understanding what to do next with your life, because if you don't, the dark enlightenment is here, and it's no woo-woo. It's right in your face. Like, there is a understanding that you and people are ignorant and unaware of what things are going on and how things are functioning. You just think that DEI is like, they're just taking it away because of the fact that it's not equal or fair to, I guess, white people. And so you only include black people. So that's why we're going to take it away. This is reflecting on my personal reflection on Carlton Pearson. That is, what are we dealing with right now? What are we dealing with? What are you dealing with? And how are you making a change in your life? How are you making a change? There, if I didn't lose this screen, there is a reflection that is, let's say, less contentious, less controversial, if you will, because I don't really think I did anything. It was controversial at the time, but I don't think, the things about the funeral, I'm not talking about the controversial side. I'm just talking about the reflection of the fact that Carlton Pearson went off and was like, man, Whammy Tisdale did that, marched his casket in there, whoop, 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 whoop. It wasn't about the music. It wasn't about, now don't get it twisted. All of Azusa was still there. That was still a big part of who Carlton was. Like, that was his life legacy, bro. Like, he did not have no serious life. I'm sorry to all the people that believe Carlton Pearson. He had 20 years in expanded consciousness. He had to be inclusion, God is not a Christian, and expanded consciousness. All that stuff happened in a matter of 20 years. But the first lifetime that he spent, 20 years only puts him to 50 to 70 is the time that he did expanded consciousness. But from the time that he was 18 years old until the time he was pretty much 50 years old, he built a mega church. He built mega people, and a lot of people have gone out there to do amazing, amazing things. If you go back, I don't want to do it, but if I go back and I reflect, and you go back and you look at Michael Todd's church, on the band and the people that were there in playing in the choir, there's one person in there. His name is Jason White, right? I believe that's his name. And this is important. I promise you. This is the important things to know whenever people start being like what Carlton wanted and what Carlton didn't want. Because basically you're saying that Carlton would want to take it and diss all the other people that were involved because of the fact that, there was a particular situation that he didn't want to necessarily, or that couldn't happen at Michael Todd's church. right? It can't happen at his church, but it can happen at All Souls. But no, we wanted to be at Michael Todd's, not at All Souls. We wanted to be at the main. And from what I heard and what I experienced, like, it's a very good thing, right? Very good thing that it all worked out how it was supposed to. Very good. Because Jason, I'm not going to find it. I was going to look it up. But Jason was a musician during Azusa. Jason was a musician. Okay. He was a musician during. This is Carlton says this is the things that makes him proud, right? These are the things that make him proud, right? So it's Jason White. He's proud about Carlton Pearson is very proud about what people go off and do that was once with him. If you were with Carlton and you've done, and Carlton was like, he was proud of Michael Todd. He was so elated that Michael Todd was able to build his ministry based on a lot of what Carlton did. He was so proud of that. And he was, and he would be super proud that Michael Todd will have a full-on movie coming out with Devin, the Christian producer, and major actors, blockbuster film. Like, Carlton would be the first person. He would be there. He would be on the red carpet, just like whenever they got on Michael Todd about his controversial situation. And he was like, you know what? I'm still, boom. I'm there for my guy. I'm there for him. No matter what, I'm there for him. I'm going to support him. He's like a son, right? And so Jason White is one of the people that were there at Azusa. I must mention that. I get it. And Jason White, this guy here, has done extremely well. He was a musician. For Azusa and for Bishop. And that guy right there has gone on to be a world-class musician, a world-class orchestrator. He was the guy that done the Sunday service choir for Kanye West. And when Kanye was doing all of his church stuff and really trying to connect to the church and really trying to connect to himself as the church, I mean, from a church perspective, it was this guy. This guy was able to come back and be able to play for Carlton Pearson's funeral. That was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. And it's a beautiful, lovely reflection. Lovely reflection. Carlton Pearson, more than anything, wants people to grow, wants people to become their authentic self, wants people to be able to expand who they are. Rather that if you be more inclusive and you're dealing with allowing yourself to be free from a lot of the old hurts, right, from the church, or rather you are wanting to explore and go in a different path, as I have, with understanding, right, things beyond spirituality as kind of a God search, right? Spirituality as a God search versus the heart of who you are, right? The heart of who you are as a person and who are you becoming as a person. I may just bring it to the private community because I've been going on and on, but I have a really neat video that has, of course, has never been shown. Nobody would have it because it's from me and it's something that I have. And I have a video of, we'll watch some of it and see where it goes. But this is a video of Carlton Pearson and I consider Carlton Pearson I consider him first a friend. I would consider Carlton Pearson at one time, he has been a client, right? That there's specific things that I was doing with helping him and assisting him as a consultant and coach. But ultimately, I also still consider him as a mentor in being able to take your craft and give it all you got with your craft. Be unapologetically unafraid to speak your truth, right? In this video that will reflect on to you, this is a very unique video. This has never been shared publicly. In this space right here, you see a guy by the name of Dr. Jerome Block. Dr. Jerome Block, he had met, but I reintroduced Dr. Block to Carlton because there were two friends that I was really close to. And here in this video, these guys were Dr. Block probably was in his mid 70s or so, probably 70. But Bishop was probably, closer to like 64, right when he first moved back from Chicago. But Dr. Jerome Block was a MD, PhD, FACP. And if you don't understand those words, medical doctor, doctorate in, he had his doctorate in FACP, which was two other certificate. One of them was a actual certification, I think, that deals with emergency room, possibly. But that Dr. Block was a Jewish man, and he was a professed Messianic Jew. Very interesting. 20 years as a hospital chief, and then or 30 years hospital chief, 20 years as a independent, and probably 5 years as a professor of medical. But I did a lot of his podcasts, his actual radio show. And this is Carlton Pearson. I organized for them to, as Dr. Block and Carlton Pearson, to have an amazing conversation. So let's venture and listen to some of this. It's 13 minutes. We're not going to listen to it all. That's going to be probably dropped into the Patreon. Miss Deidre's behind the scenes right now, so we will talk about that.
A reason to hope at this season is important. And can people get it from themselves? Do they need to listen to a sermon? Can they get it over the radio? Do they have to read books? Could a friend do it? How do people gain hope? It's hope. The word means happy anticipation of good, or sometimes of God. The Greek word. You anticipate, you expect, you look forward to. You have some sense of excellence. When you feel like you have no place to go and no forward thrust, you tend to despair. And hope is often found on the edge of despair. When a person is at the very cutting edge of their desperation, they will find hope sometimes in a glass of wine, sometimes in a piece of chocolate cake, sometimes in a phone call. That's not a deep hope. It's just the start.
Or a chance meeting of someone. Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be a family meeting. Just
a chance meeting of someone.
But some people hope not to be here. Some people are in pain. They're pain in their hearts, pain in their mind, pain in their body, and they're aching, they're hurting, and they just want to leave. And thank God, literally thank God, that there is a life hereafter, and they will go to a better place and not be in the pain and suffering. And that's a guarantee that they will not be in pain and suffering forever. Well, one time I was preaching a suicide funeral, and it was a young 18-year-old girl, 17-year-old teenager in my church.
Oh, mercy. Yeah.
Her parents were crushed. We were all crushed because she was part of our youth group, and we just didn't anticipate that. We didn't see it coming. And it hit me, it dawned on me sometimes, and this may make some people uncomfortable, sometimes the most extravagant and abstract form of faith or act of faith is at that moment when a person says, you know what? I'm screwing it up down. I can't do this. God, if you're there, I'm coming to you. It's got to be better somewhere else. And they'll actually take their life and say, Lord, have mercy, and blow their brains out. This is called rational suicide. Rational suicide. It's still illegal to do it. Yeah. Who's going to arrest you, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, some people will suffer. Your loved ones will suffer. Of course. It is the most self-serving and self-centered way out. It may seem to be a cowardly way out, but even in scripture, it says that Jesus set his face as a flint going to Jerusalem, knowing that he would be killed. In one sense, Palm Sunday, to go into Jerusalem on Sunday when he'd be on the cross by Thursday, according to the narrative, that was an act of carelessness, but he felt it was time for him to die. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting, yeah.
You've written several books, and I know you're writing another one, and I don't know the title, but it's something like, if you're not in trouble, you're in transition. No, you aren't in trouble. You're actually in transition based on the concept, and I'll have to spell it so I don't alarm your listeners. Shift, S-I-S-H-I-F-T, happens. Shift, you spell it, happens. And occasionally your shift hits the fan.
Doc was writing a book, Carlton, and read the other word there.
Yeah. Well, I should name the book that, because we're all trying to get our shift together. You know, we're going through various shifts, whether that's divorce or change of job or home or chance meeting, as you said earlier, of a friend. People are losing weight, gaining weight. There's just constant evolution. And how do you handle? We think it's trauma or trouble. The word trauma is the Greek word wound, for wound. We are wounded people, and hurting people hurt people. How do we help people resolve their pain? How do we get through the pain? What is it? How do we locate it first? And most of our pain, is historical, in that it comes out of our past. I've been married 21 years, but sometimes my wife can say something or do something that will trigger an old scab or scar.
Yes.
That is not completely healed.
That's right.
And we all have scabs and scar. In fact, I just had some surgery for scar tissue because I'm cancer free, but the healing, the treatment left scar tissue, and it's painful. So sometimes a scab or a scar is actually an indication that you are healed, but you have some follow-up work to do. So the scar shouldn't have pain. When truly there is healing, the scar gets better and better. It may be slightly visible, sometimes even unsightly, but the pain goes away and time does heal. Well, attitude is everything. You know, your attitude will determine your altitude. When perception is the ultimate reality, but not necessarily the ultimate truth. If you perceive yourself as the victim to the pain of it, or the victim of a relationship, or you're victimized by one, if that's your perception, that's your reality. It may not be the truth. Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Y'all listening?
So I'm dealing constantly with perception and encouraging people to reconsider what they believe about themselves. Why do they believe that about themselves, and how that belief about themselves, their self, adds to or subtracts from the quality of their life.
I see people with disease. My patients have somewhat similar psyche issues in their mind and their body. You have your
Psychosoma.
psychos, and there is the body heals the mind, and the mind heals the body.
Yeah. We become what we think most about, and what you think about, you bring about. Thoughts are powerful.
Man, I hope y'all listening. Like, this is expanded consciousness. This is metaphysical work. This is also dealing with when we start talking about law of attraction, law of assumption, like all these words he's talking about all that stuff is metaphysical. Oh my God, I have to take it back just a little bit. Like y'all, all I got to say is everything that's all expanded consciousness, but it's leaning more into the metaphysical space. What you think about talking about your thoughts, like you got to listen to that. And this guy that he's talking to is a medical doctor. I've known this medical doctor before I knew Carlton, which my other spiritual father or spiritual mentor, he would be more a father, when I was 25, introduced me to Dr. Block. And he would go to Dr. Block's and do prayers and do metaphysical work at Dr. Block's office. That's how I end up getting. That's how I went to Oral Roberts. Listen to this.
Disease. My patients have somewhat similar psyche issues in their mind and their body. You have your
Psychosoma.
psychos, and there is the body heals the mind and the
From the quality of their life.
Gotta go back, and then I'm gonna cut it off.
With disease. My patients have somewhat similar psyche issues in their mind and their body.
Patient
You
had psyche
have
issues.
your
Psychosoma.
psychos, and there is the body heals the mind, and the mind heals the body.
Yeah. We become what we think most about, and what you think about, you bring about. Thoughts are powerful and creative. They're inventive, literally. Consciousness is everything. I'm learning that. I call it science of mind, science fiction, or the science of fiction, something that can't be proven. That's an act of faith in some people's minds. Faith is science fiction, or the fiction of science. So everything has to do with thought and memory, and how you nurture your perceptions about you. And like, for me to look at I'm 61 years old, as I was saying, we were saying at lunch, I look at my body, I feel my joints, my eyes, my ears, the different changes as you evolve in age. If you think negatively about those changes, they become that to you. You're a very handsome, viral, active, older person. You're not old. You're just older than everybody in this whole studio.
Yes, I am. I am the grandfather here.
And how many grandkids do you have, Doc?
I have a few, 15 grandkids, 3 great-grandkids.
15?
And wise.
Wow.
Why? Well, I'm 77. I've earned these children. Not just paid for them, I earned.
Well, see, but you look great. You're a health expert and you're a scientist. But your thoughts, I can tell by the way you think. You think health. You think hope.
Yeah.
You think healing. And every time you open your mouth, you're passing on, teaching us every time. I mean, the first time I went to you, you were teaching the whole time, recommending books. You're very brilliant. So immediately my attention is away from my pain or my sickness, and on healing, on answers that address the issue.
Well, as we talked about earlier, the word doctor comes from Latin, to teach, and I want to be a teacher, and I want to teach my patients how to care for themselves, their heart, their mind, as well as their body.
Yeah, I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off. That's all metaphysical right there, bro. They doing some metaphysics. Oh, that's some John Thomas saying that's some Joe Dispenza. Man, y'all don't know. Y'all don't know, bro. Discover the doctor within. Be your best second opinion. Literally, I've done so much medical study. Under him that there are things that I could do that definitely high-level wellness coaching, easy. I'm getting involved with high-level wellness coaching of myself and other things. And a lot of that I owe to Dr. Block. He's the one that got me involved in CBD, got me involved in all sorts of different things, right? In that conversation, this was his book, his last book, The Doctor Within, right? To my Malachi, who is about to discover the doctor within, right? That was this book here. It might be on Amazon. Dr. Block was so pivotal and controversial, even though if he's 77, it wasn't too far from this time that Dr. Block actually committed suicide. And there was words, and it's all in national, that he was like, oh, was he pushed or what happened, But I know some things that happened with his facility and things that people done. But I learned a whole lot, omega fatty acids, testosterone. I mean, this is, this kind of stuff is amazing. You talk about my experiences while I was grabbing that book. Look at this. Miles Monroe. Rediscovering the Kingdom. Remember that? That was a good one. He would always Dr. Monroe leave me a little message, right? That was really beautiful. I'm going to upload that video, right? And you know what? I think that actually lets me know, too, that I think I want to start a wellness section within the Expanded Conscious community. And so as we wrap up, there's one thing that I want to do, and that is there's a couple of things. We were going to reflect back on some of the people in the comments. And then also I want to bring someone to the stage who's been behind the scenes, who's getting involved and who is very patient, very kind. And although words can't seemingly replace sometime how we feel emotionally, that can still be a cop-out for us to use ways to actually try to express how much people mean. So no longer do I want people out there using cop-outs on saying words can't express the way it means. That's the only thing we have right now. If somebody was going to do something to you, I hope you can use words to, hopefully get yourself out of the situation. So I want to use words that says, I personally appreciate, I honor, and I want to welcome just to this stage, Miss Deidre Smith.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
Woo! This is Miss Deidre. So there was some comments real quick. Is there anything that we wanted to highlight or pull up?
Let's see. I mean, there was a lot of people greeting, but let's see. You're talking about reflecting on the fact that Bishop was shot. I didn't know that. So that was a new thing. I thought I knew a lot. I didn't know that too.
Bro.
Very interesting.
You didn't even know it.
Yes, like that's wild, right? So then also, Brother Reuben, speaking of your authentic experience with Bishop Pearson. We want to speak to that.
Thank you, Reuben.
Fun fact, Miss Marie, she walked behind the horse and carriage.
Oh, with Wayman.
Yep.
Yeah, he wanted a funeral like Wayman's.
Yep. And Miss Elise on YouTube, thankful for Bishop CDP. She said through him, she met you, Malachi, the Popes, and Christian, and others. Definitely can speak to that sentiment.
Yes.
And Brother John, we talked about it, but I want to highlight it. Grateful to have met CDP. He said but she had enough time. He didn't have enough one-on-one with him. Yeah, that's real. We want to honor that. We want to honor that.
He says he didn't have a lot, and he didn't have a lot. But through his heart, John Thomas really, really, really wanted to connect to Bishop and become friends with Bishop, because John Thomas did a lot of personal, spiritual deconstructing work earlier in his years, and so he really wanted to connect to Bishop, and he contacted Bishop through Facebook, and I'm looking on here for something, but he contacted him on Facebook, and I end up responding to John. I didn't respond to everybody because there's a lot of people to respond to. I didn't respond to everybody, but every once in a while, if I was able to see it, able to connect, and able to see the person, I might go ahead and actually, put out a phone call. John Thomas will say personally what he didn't get to do because his heart was so into really wanting to connect to Bishop. But there's something I would like to highlight if Facebook would do it. But there was one time that Bishop and I went over to John's house, and John was able to, we were able to watch some, I think Joe Dispenza, or we watched some other, Greg Braden talking about the Bible. But I don't know if I've played this or not. I thought it would be easy to get to, but literally it brought Bishop Carlton Pearson to tears, that John had a record with Bishop on it, on the back of it. And I guess he had done some, but it was like a later Souls of Fire. It was a later Souls of Fire. And Bishop was able to, and I have to imagine, it was probably February when we went over John's, and Carlton died in November.
Wow.
Yeah. So one of the things I will say to John is that for anybody that is about to, or anyone that has experienced their days, especially their last days like Bishop did, it was a positive memory. I would say that Bishop Carlton Pearson was able to have of a reflecting of being able to see a part of Bishop's past life. I almost had it, man, because is right there, and it's a beautiful. And the reason why I want to see it is because it is actually a really beautiful reflection of Bishop, and him having a wonderful time reflecting. So what I'll do is I'll post that in the Patreon.
Okay.
Man, Deidre, I'm gonna have to remember to do some of these things.
I took notes. I got you.
All right.
I got you.
I'll post those in that, so because it'd be much easier.
Okay. And then there are a couple more comments that I did want to highlight. Barry McBee, he said he was going to be a seed, and now I see it growing. Speaking of Bishop's legacy.
Where you at, Barry? Where you at? Where you at?
Yes, I love that. I love that. And let's see. Mother White. There's an ECC broadcast with Bishop in January 22 where CDP talked about what's happening with our government. I remember that. I remember that episode very well. So hopefully we can find that. We can upload it maybe to the community.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, I want to say hi to Miss Gwen.
Miss Gwen.
Miss Gwen is in the hospital, so we want to hold space for her. That she is logged in from the hospital. We want to send love, healing, peace, and clarity. We love you, Miss Gwen, but we want to make sure that we honor you, that you're even tuned in. You should be resting.
Yeah, rest and just monitoring and seeing what's going on. For some reason, you need to see what's going on in the hospital, right? And then you can leave. Like you just, okay, that's what's going on. And you can leave.
Yep. And then talking about Bishop's impact and like the connectedness that he had, your friend Brian.
Oh yeah.
From memory. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask Brian. I'll probably do something in the community with Brian, and because he's working on getting that episode 2 of Why Trump onto all the networks, and but we reflect on Carlton in a big way on part 2. And Brian is the person that has all of the footage from the last interview, and we'll probably end up doing something. But anyways, good job. Good seeing you, B.
Yeah, so everybody was commenting. Miss Marie is always the comment queen because she always gets the tidbits of Bishop, of different. So the key things like hope is found at the edge of despair. I love those quotes from Bishop when he says those kind of things.
That is cool.
Yeah, and focusing on the science of the mind, consciousness, the science of the mind, and it's actually an act of faith. And I think that's a pretty profound statement.
That is good. That is good. That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you, Miss D. And one of the things that I will say, well, I don't want to forget that this Saturday, we're going to be doing our meetup.
Yes.
It's Saturday at 9:30 Central.
9:30 Central.
10:30
Patreon community. Yep, Eastern.
In the Patreon community.
Yep.
Message me. If a person has questions, they can message me. And of course, it's a paid community on that meetup. But for anybody's first time that wants to just see what happens, go in there, message me, and I'll make sure you at least get a chance to kind of see what's going on, see behind the scenes. Yeah. So the last thing I would like to do is, of course, I think I mentioned it. I don't know if you heard me, if I mentioned it or not, but I mentioned it. And that is that I've been doing a lot of writing of music and going back and forth. And now there's tools available so you can write the music, but there's tools available so you can get your instruments and people, and you can actually have AI with different voices sing it. And there might be a couple of versions of different songs, but there's a song that I would like to play. And this song is definitely 100% inspired by Bishop Carlton Pearson. 100. And this version is very inspired by Bishop. Deidre, I don't think you heard this.
I don't think I have. This is going to be a surprise for me too, guys.
So, but the name of the song for all that are listening is Release the Blame. Release the Blame. Release the Blame has a lot, and these lyrics have a lot to do with what some of us may experience. And the opening intro talks about Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, or Muhammad, because in the church you would always hear Buddha is not the way, Muhammad is not the way. My father used to say that. Hare Krishna is not the way. You know, Jesus is the only way. You know, and they would shake. Jesus. Their lips would shake. No, they wouldn't do that. But they would say those things, those little things that they don't understand, that just because you believe what you believe, you can still believe what you believe. But why is it that you believe that you have to always take a dump on somebody else and just not necessarily be like, you know, you can still disagree with them, but you don't have to take a dump on them. But this song is inspired between what Carlton went through and what we may be going through. And if you listen to the words, one day you'll be able to get a full album of all this affirmation music, because Deidre is going to help me. But anyways, this is Release the Blame. Gospel version. Wow. Not that. I don't know why that's still playing, but let your heart rejoice. I don't want to play that song. Stop. There we go. Here we go. Release the blame. And as we listen into this, close your eyes and just take in the words, because what I write literally comes from the heart. And it really is, I work really hard to try to get the words and the essence of what we may be experiencing, and that this affirmation music is something we can hear. Release the blame.
If it's Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, or Mohammed, just know, my friend, God is within. No matter the name, no matter the face, God is within, moving through grace. Born from a world of love, no shame. We all feel it when we hear our name. Our name is love, our name is peace. Serenity in what we believe. So when you call my name, I will not fear. Love is the answer, it's always near. No power to blame, no guilt, no shame. Just let love flow and break the chain. Told what to believe, yet deep inside we know God is love, no matter where we go. Oh, let me take this moment, no fear, no shame, to stand in love and release the blame. Release the blame. Release the blame. Choosing the path we must embrace. The love is the answer, for heaven's sake. Can we let go and let love flow? In the hate, release the pain. Deep inside, we're all the same. Blindly accepting love not the same, but you have a chance to go within. And I know that God is a part of all of us, my friend. Oh, it's in you, it's in me. Love is the answer, no matter what they say. God is around, no matter the fate. No more division, no more the pain. God is within, always the same. So go within, my friend, be still. God is within, and always love is the answer, no matter what they say. God is with us, guiding the way.
That was beautiful.
Some of this stuff, like being able to have this in your heart and not being able to get it out, and these tools that are available to us can allow us to get something out, right? And so I don't know if you know, if a person really heard some of those lyrics, right? Basically saying that God is love no matter where we go. Break the chains and release the blame, right? Choosing the path on what we may take, right? Love is the answer, for heaven's sake. We don't have those lyrics. We don't have those things when it comes to a lot of music that we have in this expanded space. And so one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and it's coming to fruition, is being able to have something that we can listen to, and we can say the lyrics, and it can affirm in us who we are as we are, because love is the answer. Any more reflections?
Yes. Let's see. Miss Marie, listening to that song, so profound. Love is the answer. She picked up on it. Mother White spoke to how that's healing music.
Yeah.
And Elise on YouTube, who asked who was the artist in the song title, and I told her, join us in our Patreon community. You'll be able to hear it. We drop music for you, but eventually we'll drop it on all platforms as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
Well, until this weekend and next week, we will, be back, and hopefully, I'll have it together. We'll know more of what's happened. Make sure you guys tap in this weekend on this coming Saturday, and that's in the Patreon community. If you would like to have access to join our session, just message and let us know. So until next week, you good, Deidre?
I'm good. You guys be well.
All right. See y'all later.
If it's Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, or Mohammed, just know, my friend, God is within. No matter the name, no matter the faith, God is within, moving through grace. Born from a world of love, no shame. We all feel it when we hear our name. Our name is love, our name is peace. Serenity in what we believe. So when you call my name, I will not fear. Love is the answer, it's always near. No power